I would now ask you, Shazad, the question which very much pertains to you, and I would probably ask you this question first, that SCB is a growth-oriented institution in emerging economies. So I'm sure you're not going to go out from Pakistan, right? But you've had a very great experience working with various international banks, and I think you probably are the best person to ask this question is, how has been your experience of those banks which have got enhanced compliance agenda or enhanced compliance focus in terms of frontline ownership and awareness of the compliance strategies and responsiveness, and also most importantly, how do you think that these banks, these global banks in general, have been rethinking their businesses, have been rethinking their risk appetite, their risk acceptance criteria, and most importantly, what's your view on what is the change that you are seeing in their business and customer solicitation culture?
Sure. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, a big thank you to Dellsons for having me over here, and thanks for us for moderating the session. Look, I think before me we had Irfan Saab and we had even Salim Raza Saab talk about, so just as a stepping back, I think we all have seen one of the worst financial crises a decade ago in which banks have suffered, and it's all banks. Frankly, hardly any bank, you can say, has been buffered from this, and the fines have totaled around somewhere between $300 to $350 billion, and the numbers are very big, very large, and frankly, at that type of a penalty could wipe out some of the banks in our country. I mean, the magnitude is very high. So I think the dimension and everything has changed over the last 10 years, 10, 15 years. We, mashallah, as Pakistan, were buffered from it, partly because we were insulated, partly because we have and I say this not because my regulator is sitting here, but I think on the regulated side, we have one of the best regulators in the industry, in the region. And I've experienced that because I've worked in multiple jurisdictions. I can say that with confidence and with a lot of understanding of what I'm saying. One thing that I think we all need to realize, and there's no sacred cow. एक ज़माना था कि अगर आप foreign bank हैं तो आपके वहाँ ये नहीं हो सकता, and I think history would tell us a lot of foreign banks have been hit with penalties and kind of things that have happened, mis-selling, misconduct, they have been, or AML, so it's not, we shouldn't be shy on just saying that because we are Pakistani, ये हमारे साथ हो रहा है. So we should be proud of, because we have some very fine institutions, some very fine banks. And I say that again with some level of understanding, because while Irfan Saab did not acknowledge, but we are the 6th largest correspondent bank globally. We are one of the largest, and we cover most of the large banks in Pakistan as NFI relationship. And we're very proud of those relationships. So not only do we see them as at times our competitors, but as our clients and our partners, and we are very proud of that relationship. So when things happen, we work with them based on our own experience, and we have lived through it. I think few things to realize. I think post that crisis, regulators globally and locally all have become much more intrusive, much more prescriptive, much more vigilant, who even were not there. And I think they all are talking to each other. I think the days are gone where they have colleges, they meet, they share the best practices, and I think the level of understanding of the challenges and issues globally and how they could impact a country like Pakistan are very much they're all well versed, and I think that's something we all have to embrace. This is not going away. The regime of focus on compliance and conduct, and I will touch upon conduct also, is going to happen a lot more. It's going to, I think the people feel it's a fad or it's going to go away. I think you're sadly mistaken. And that's the right thing to do. And by the way, it's not just happening in banking sector, it's happening in technology, it's happening in entertainment, it's happening in corporate sector also. And I think that understanding of that and immediately embracing that, it's important. The other thing is, I think the reaction, the other phenomena that's happening is technology. We talked about technology. Technology is your biggest friend right now. It has its challenges. We have seen what's happened in some of the cases. We have seen intrusive, cybersecurity issues. But again, I really believe that I think the kinds of transactions we are doing, it's just not going to, we do 3 million transactions, if in quantum, I'm saying. We have over, if we are watching on a daily basis 7 million transactions that are happening within banks because of our corresponding relationship. And I think with that level of that, human error will happen if we rely on humans. We have to take invest in technology. There's a big burden on that, but there's a big reward. It will lead to efficiencies, it will lead to better controls. We have invested recently in Microsoft and Mantis. I think these are two very leading technology platforms, which are, one is for name screening, one is for AML. And I think what that has allowed us to do is become much more vigilant. Now, one other thing is it's not about just control. Control is a partner with business. And I think this is the last point I just want to leave before I have others speak, and then we'll talk about something. I think this is the part that I think we all need to understand. हमारे वहाँ एक myth है कि यार compliance उसका काम है, business लाना मेरा काम है. Absolutely not. If you work with that mindset, you're not. We believe, and we have invested heavily on this, is the first line, second line, and third line. Brilliant. First line is obviously your salespeople. Second line is your internal control. Third line is your internal audit. And then obviously by the time you go to fourth line, we go to your auditors, or you go to the external, you go to you or go to State Bank, it's game over. It's frankly, you've lost the plot. You've lost the narrative. And I think what's happened is we have invested in people. People will always play a very important role, because otherwise you can have AI and everything can be done, because judgments will have to be made. Yeah. You will have to understand the client needs, but with very detailed and very valuable information, which is risk-based. So you're really being a lot more efficient. And with that, you need to also have to make sure that your first line owns this responsibility along with your second line and your third line. And that mindset change, I think, will be the biggest differentiator of the banks that are going to be winners and the banks that are going to be losers. Last point I would just say on this very point, I think we look at getting this information is a burden. Clients are saying, "अरे यार मार दिया यार, ये information मांग रहे," और हमारे खिलाफ एक आता है कि यार Standard Chartered मांग रहा है और कोई बैंक नहीं मांग रहा. I think that those things are also going to change, because when we ask for information, we obviously, because we have also paid a price on that, so we are a bit ahead. But sometimes that comment comes, and a lot more time it comes, especially when you're in the night going for weddings or parties and all that. Yaar mere saath ye wa account nahi khola. So I think what's going to happen, it's a competitive advantage. When you have that valuable information, that data about the client, and if you've done your onboarding right, as Irfan was saying, I think that's when you can really be able to penetrate that client, cross-sell that client with valuable products and suites, which frankly we are not doing right now. It's a single product, liability le liya, ye le liya, but then you know the age, you know the business, you know what they're doing, where they're traveling, and we have, with our credit card, we follow our clients all the way through their age. So I think it's a competitive advantage. Don't think of it as a cost. Think of it as a revenue opportunity also, and make sure that if you don't do it, frankly, it's for your survival. I have one last thought, but I will hold that, but I want you to come back to me. I have a thought based on some of the other things.
Excellent, and I'm sure, we will be having some time for me to come back to you, Shazad.